Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. Mafia Members Podcast, episode number 7. Podcast for the Bills Mafia by the Bills Mafia. This episode, we're going to talk about the wide receiver room. They got some money from Trey White's contract expiring on June 1st, so we'll look at what they're going to do with that. We got some fan questions to get into. We'll probably end the show on that. We'll talk about some of my other social media platforms and what I'm doing on there, and then we'll close out the show. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills. Merry Christmas.
Alrighty, guys. So let's hop right into it. So I think one thing that's been going around recently, or one thing at least that I've been wondering, is if the wide receiver room is actually better this year than they were last year. It's kind of one of those things that, like, when you first say it's like, no, you're crazy. Like, obviously they're not. But once you kind of sit on it for a little bit and you kind of think about it, there is a case to be made that the wide receiver room as a whole is better than what it was last season. Obviously not as high end of a talent, because we obviously don't have Diggs. But I still think that, there's a chance that as a whole, this whole pass catching group can be better than what they were last year. So just to kind of run down some names from last season, obviously there's no Diggs. He was our main guy. But so last year the wide receiver room was Diggs, Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, Hardy, Sherfield, and Isabella. Those are all guys that, I think Isabella was the lowest with, I think he played in 2 games. But those are pretty much all the guys that lined up for us. And like I said, it's definitely a top-heavy room. But we kind of fall off in the bottom half there. And this season, we got Keon Coleman. Looks like he's great. The videos that we've seen so far seem like he's pretty legit. Curtis Samuel, I'll say, is an upgrade over Gabe Davis. Khalil Shakir is in that same spot. We have Mac Hollins or Justin Shorter. I feel like that's an upgrade over Hardy. We have MVS, which I think is an upgrade over Sherfield. And then whoever doesn't make it, but I feel like the bottom 3, it's Mac Hollins, Shorter, and Chase Claypool. And those 3 are fighting for the last spot, and I feel like all 3 of them are better than Isabella. So I feel like as a whole it did get better. I received a little bit of flack for even suggesting that idea. But like most things, like when you look at the Bears with Caleb Williams, it's kind of their whole season depends on how well he plays. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers, their whole season depends on how he's going to go. The whole wide receiver room really does depend on if Coleman can step into that wide receiver 1 role. If he does, then hands down, we're better than we were last year. Maybe a guy like Curtis Samuel can step into the wide receiver 1 role. He'll be Maybe he's the guy with the most targets on the team. We also have to factor in, obviously, Kincaid and Knox at the tight end position, but we're looking at just the wide receiver room. So I think Samuel might lead the wide receivers in targets. I think Kincaid leads the team in targets. But Samuel might lead the wide receivers in targets. And, that's obviously a bit of a downgrade from Diggs, obviously. But Curtis Samuel's a very versatile guy. Can produce yak. And, I obviously he's a downgrade from Stephon Diggs, but he can still. I feel like he provides a little bit of something that Diggs didn't provide, which is those. Or they've moved away from it definitely at the latter part of last season, of those kind of wide receiver screen plays to Diggs, those quick hitch routes to Diggs. They kind of moved away from that. But that's something that Curtis Samuel can absolutely provide. And yeah, I think as a whole, the whole group got a little bit better. They just don't have Diggs, and obviously Diggs was a big part of the offense. Obviously, those targets, those receptions, those yards are going to have to go somewhere. I think Kincaid gets a big chunk of them. I think Cook out of the backfield gets a big chunk of them. But I think there's guys throughout that whole wide receiver core that can definitely shoulder some of the load. Obviously, we're looking for a breakout year from Shakir. We need him to be able to produce at a high level, and there's no reason to expect that he to expect that he won't be able to do that. Yeah, I feel like he worked hard. He earned the opportunity last year. Now let's see what he can actually do. I do think he's better suited in that same kind of slot receiver, third option guy, that release valve for Allen kind of spot. But he was very productive. He was very productive last year, and I don't see it slowing down. In fact, I see it, as most people, I think it's turning up a little bit. He'll get more opportunities. He'll get more looks. There will be more plays designed for him, and those kind of things. So I feel like as a whole, the whole team, the whole wide receiver room definitely got better. It took a while to get there. Definitely, I feel like I'm like most Bills fans, and thought that the world was ending, and thought that the room was going to be one of the worst in the league probably, and we were just going to trot Josh Allen out there and cross our fingers and hope for the best. But I really think that we'll get more bottom end production from our wide receiver room than we did in the previous years. We don't have that bona fide number one guy getting 120 receptions a season. We don't have it. I don't think the offense needs it to survive. So yeah, it'll definitely be very interesting. I also think we improved in lots of aspects as a whole, as a team. So obviously promoting Babbage to defensive coordinator, getting a full off season. We'll say it'll be Joe Brady's first time as the OC. So I think our coaching staff is kind of upgraded a bit from last year. We'll take some of the pressure, off McDermott. On the defensive side of the ball, obviously it's still going to be his scheme and his ideas, but he can focus on being the head coach, and we have the defensive coordinator in place to do that. So I feel like that was an upgrade for the team as a whole. I think our running backs improved as well. Got definitely got younger. Ray Davis looks like he's, you watch a little bit more clips of him, highlights of him, and he looks like he's going to be a really nice compliment to James Cook. James Cook had a little, I don't know if we can call it a breakout season last year, but pretty much like he's one of the more slept on players in the league. I feel like he was fourth in total rushing yards. He had over 1,200 scrimmage yards total. Or no, I think he had 1,200. Did he have 1,200 rushing yards? And then I think it was like 1,500 all purpose yards, something like that. Anyways, he had a great season that is kind of, everyone kind of just only remembers him for the Dallas game, but they're not paying attention to the whole season of work from him. So I think our running backs got better. We'll have Matt Milano back, so our linebackers are better. We obviously got rid of Poyer, and Hyde is still a question mark, but I feel like now we at least have competition in the safety room, and competition makes it obviously you can get a little bit more out of the guys when they know that there's guys biting at their heels to get in and play. Obviously, like I don't think that it's better, but I think that there's more competition there. Hyde and Poyer were aging. Hyde looks like he's going to. Well, he said he's Buffalo or retire. I think he's leaning more on that retirement side. They're both aging, so I don't think it was. And often injured, both of them. So I feel like we're not losing all that much by them leaving. We lose more of like the identity, like the heart and soul of the defense with those guys gone. Trey White, love him to death, was awesome as a Bill. If he's healthy, obviously we miss him. Obviously it's a downgrade to our corners. Not having him out there on the field, I feel like him and Rasul Douglas was what we needed, 2-3 seasons ago to really, to win that 13-second game. If we had Trey White and kind of the defensive backs that we have now, just insert a healthy Trey White. I think we have some different outcomes to a lot of Bills games. So yeah, I think overall, I'd say coaching, running backs, wide receiver, depth at linebacker, depth at safety. Not necessarily the players, but the depth there is better than it was last year. And I don't think people are giving us enough credit for that. They just saw the Diggs trade. They saw Gabe Davis leaving. And they said, well, that's it. They're writing the Bills off. But, like we said last week, this is easily an 11-win team. Maybe 12, maybe 13 wins, but who knows? But for now, it's easily an 11-win team. And they despite what everybody says, they have gotten better at quite a few spots. The interesting thing, the other thing that I wanted to get into in this episode was it's finally June 1st. Trey White's money is finally off the books. And I am totally torn as to what I want them to do with that free $10 million. I feel like there's all of our needs right now are defensive. I don't care what position they go to with a post June 1st signing, as long as it's on the defensive side. I'll be a little bit disappointed if it's a linebacker because I feel like we're good there. but I feel like they need. For me, it's a toss up between getting a defensive back, kind of a play all over the field guy, like a corner slash safety, guy who can fill in both spots. Interior defensive line, I think we can use some help there, some guys in the rotation there, and some edge guys. I think that's kind of where we lost a lot in the offseason. You know, Floyd had what? He had 10 and a half, 11 sacks last year, something like that. So we obviously have to replace that production somehow. So I think that's where I'd like it to go. Like to see a signing most is to get an pass rush guy. There's obviously a couple interesting names that are still out there, still free agent guys. We could go with two guys that we could do a reunion with for the Bills. Guess not really as much a reunion for Shaq Lawson, but we could re-sign Shaq Lawson. We could get Jerry Hughes back. I don't know what kind of shape he's in. Like, he was aging when he left, and so I don't know the appetite for bringing him back. I don't know what his season looked like last year. Just a name that I saw that kind of jumped off the sheet because it would be interesting. It's always fun to bring a guy back. And then there's also available for edge rush is Ogba, and I can never pronounce that guy's last name, Ngakwe. Those are some names that I think might pique the Bills' interest. Obviously, you'd like the Bills to sign someone in that spot. Those are kind of the two biggest names I think that are available in Ogba and in Ngakwe. The Bills definitely need to. They're either going to have to keep it how they have it and just scheme up ways to get Epinesa free and charging the quarterback, or maybe they can scheme up some ways that they can get Ed Oliver and kind of some of the interior D linemen to get some pressure on the quarterback. But I think overall it's going to be coming from the outside. Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa are going to have some big seasons if they don't make any changes or don't bring in anybody in that position. Interior defensive linemen, I had a look. There's not too many interior D linemen that kind of move the needle for me. There was one in Calais Campbell. He's kind of just he's a beast. He's a big dude. He's a big body, and we all know that Ed Oliver likes and kind of needs, quote unquote, needs that. He needs the Daquan Jones, the Star Lotolele, Phillips, Harrison Phillips, the big body who's going to eat up a double team, and Ed Oliver can handle his one-on-one assignment to get into the quarterback. Calais Campbell kind of fits that mold of somebody else. He can come in, fill in for just a rotation player as well. But all that being said, I think on the defensive line is where I'd like to see them spend this money the most. And if not, then it's into the defensive backs. I don't think there's a real need for us to add to the linebacking core at all. I think we have a top 5 linebacking duo in the league. Most people don't even know who Terrell Bernard is, but they'll find out this season. Obviously, with Milano back, we're cruising. We're fine. I put out a poll on Twitter. Got some good feedback as to who we should, if we were to go defensive back, who would we sign? And the winner of the poll was actually Patrick Peterson. I think he's a very interesting name. Adding a corner, I got into it a little bit, or had a discussion with someone on Twitter. The only way Patrick Peterson, or even adding a corner, makes sense is we plan on taking if we plan on taking Benford and converting him. I don't know if that's like actually been talked about, or if that's just a social media GM conversation. But if the only way we sign a corner is if Benford is able to make that switch over to safety to play the safety position. The other name in the poll was Stephon Gilmore, another guy to reunite, bring him back to Buffalo before, give him one or two more seasons back with the Mafia before he retires. It was an interesting name again for the same reasons. I think he's definitely on the tail end of his career, but he's also, a former defensive player of the year. So you never do harm by bringing in a player like that. But what I think, if they're adding to the defensive backs, I think they need to go kind of a Hyde replacement, Hyde or Poyer, right? Because I think that Cole Bishop is going to. I feel like Cole Bishop is kind of more the Micah Hyde style, and I think we need to add a Jordan Poyer style. Someone who can make tackles, who can help in the run game, who can, do kind of some of those things that Jordan Poyer did, while Bishop is being in the back, the Micah Hyde role of, coaching, or not coaching is the wrong word, but kind of seeing everything from the back, making plays on balls and stuff like that. I think that's kind of more Cole Bishop's role, and we need kind of an attacker on back there with him. Some interesting names that I saw were Justin Simmons, Eddie Jackson, Quandre Diggs. These are all kind of guys that I think can come in here and help our team out. I do think that that it would be funny if we spent whatever it was, the four seasons of Stephon and Trayvon Diggs talking about wanting to play together, and then as soon as Stephon leaves, we bring in his other brother. I think that would be kind of funny. But overall, I think tops on my whole entire list, I think I'd like to have Emmanuel Ogbah come in on the defensive line. I think that's kind of where our biggest need is, and we need to spend the most amount of money. We got $10 million. We can get him for one season, and then kind of spend this season working out an extension with him, or see who becomes available. And we part ways. We all know at the end of this season, we got a whole bunch of money that we can make a whole bunch of changes to areas of need. But yeah, I think Ogbah, and then maybe Calais Campbell. I could see that. Defensive line help first, defensive back help second, and then kind of go from there. I feel like I've been rambling for a little bit here, so we'll take a quick little break, and then I'll come right back. We'll get into some of the stuff from social media, the haters that I've seen out there. Started a funny little thing on TikTok, and then we'll get into the fan question, and then we'll call it a night. All right, we'll be right back. Alrighty, so we're back. It'll be quick, just to quick couple points here to get into, and then wrap up the show. And yeah, so I started a funny little. Well, I think it's funny, anyways. Funny little trend on or series, I should say, on TikTok, where I it's mainly from Miami fans because they're not the brightest. But it's anyone with a bad take. I kind of go through why it's a bad take. It's very easy to find on Twitter. Just you can literally just type in Josh Allen's name, and it's just pages and pages and pages of bad takes. But last week one went. I feel like everybody in Bills Mafia will know this tweet. It was making the rounds. Lots of very famous Bills accounts commented on it. Lots of people had lots to say about it because it was that bad of a take. So go to my TikTok at Mafia Members Pod on TikTok. I do a full breakdown of this tweet. But essentially, I don't know. He was in a conversation. This guy was in a conversation with someone about the Bills, and he said this was in a response to something else, and he said Dawkins was mediocre last year, and he's 30 years old. I think the only thing that's true about that is Dawkins is 30. I don't even know if Dawkins is 30 or not. He was far above mediocre. He's been far above mediocre his whole entire career. Everyone. I don't know why, but it just seems like when it comes to Bills players, they don't get the same respect as everybody else. Like if any other quarterback had their blind side protected for their whole entire career, everybody would love that tackle. Dawkins does it, and he gets this. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. That's another series. So Dawkins was mediocre last year, and he's 30 years old. Not true. James Cook is a running back which doesn't move the needle in the wins column. I'll give it to him because it's the only one that's like kind of accurate. A very good running back does move the needle in the win column. See Derrick Henry, see CJ2K, Adrian Peterson. Like I'm not saying Cook is these guys, but that's also not what he's saying either. He's saying a running back doesn't move the needle in wins and loss column, and they definitely do. James Cook is maybe not one of the running backs who do that, but there definitely are running backs who do that. He goes on to say Kincaid is a bottom 5 top receiving option in the league. I'm still confused as to what he means by bottom 5 top receiving option. So like of the top receiving options, he's in the bottom 5, which is fair. But if it's like of all wide receiving, if it's of all receiving options, then like he's not even in the top of the receiving options. Like top receiving options are JJ, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. Those are the guys who are in the top 5 receiving options. So obviously a tight end is not in that list like ever, unless your name is Travis Kelce. So he's a bottom 5 top receiving option in the league. So maybe I don't like I said, I don't even really understand what that one means. This is the one that had Bills Mafia going crazy. He said Bernard was terrible last season, and that's just 100% not true. He played at an all-pro level last year. Like, look at his stats. Look at what he did. Look at just watch, and you'll see that you're lying to yourself if that's what you think. Ed Oliver was below average last year. I think he might have had his most sacks ever in a single season. Milano's average last year. Hard to say someone was average when they only played in like 3 games. The 3 games he played at, he was good in. He was Matt Milano. He's underratedly the best linebacker in the league. So of course you would think that he's average because nobody has ever given him the credit that he deserves. Teron Johnson was quite good last year, but that's honestly it from your list. So obviously this guy gave a list of players that played well, and that was his response. Teron Johnson was quite good last year, but that's honestly it from your list. And yeah, Teron Johnson did play well last year. Teron Johnson is very good, and he will continue to play very good. But he ended the tweet, and that's kind of where you figured out what everything was. Used a combo of stats and PFF grades for this. So he went online, went on PFF, looked at their over PFF grades of everybody, and then said, oh yeah, no, that guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. But you're looking at stuff that doesn't matter. Just watch the game and find out that they're not terrible. Like, I really don't understand the confusion or why you would feel the need to go online and say these kinds of things. When we can easily just say, watch. When you can easily disprove it and just say, watch the season that Terrell Bernard had. And then for you to say that he's terrible is just, you're just making things up at that point. So that'll pretty much do it for the show. We do have one fan question we'll get in here. This one comes from Twitter, and it's at Sports Service, at Sports, SPORTS _ service. I think it might be a double underscore, but go check him out on Twitter. It's a good follow. And his question is, how is this offense going to still be dangerous? I think this offense is still dangerous. Like I said, I think that they've improved the wide receiver room as a whole. They will not be a 1-target offense. They will be a 10-target offense, or, that's obviously an exaggeration, but 2 wide receivers, a slot guy, tight end, and a running back, 5 options every single time, and then you have the best quarterback, quote unquote, the best quarterback at making plays happen in the league, in Josh Allen. So they will be dangerous by, it's the death by 1,000 paper cuts argument. I feel like it's going to be, for the first time in a little while, where we're going to be seeing the Bills doing long, methodical drives down the field. We'll go first, and there'll be a lot of 2nd and 6 and 7, and then a lot of 3rd and 2 and 3, and just kind of marching our way down the field. It's not going to be an explosive offense, I don't think, but I think you can still be dangerous without being explosive. We're still going to score points, I think. We'll still score a lot of points, so we will remain dangerous. But I think that it's not going to, like without Diggs, we're not going to have, and Gabe Davis, we're not going to have the deep shot option anymore. I mean, unless Keon Coleman is that for us, we're not going to have the 70-yard touchdown plays. So I think that's how we remain dangerous, is by spreading the ball out. Will make you have to cover everybody on the field. We'll be able to find a matchup problem somewhere of the 5 options that we have on the field at any given time. There's going to be a mismatch somewhere. Even if that mismatch is in a Josh Allen run play, even if everybody's covered well, then we still got Josh Allen running the ball because nobody's open, or whatever the case might be. But I think there's too many ways that we can be good. There's not one way that we're great. You know what I mean? There's too many ways that we can be really good, for a defense to stop all of the weapons and all of the options and all of the things that we can do on the field. So that'll be the show for this week. Really appreciate it. Again, go check out Sports Service on Twitter. It's at sports_service. And thanks y'all for listening. And as always, fuck the Fins, baby.